One thing that I wanted to ask you about with regard to UBI was the structure of UBI, because as I initially understood it, which it seems incorrect, so correct me if I'm wrong, is that it's a universal program. However, the caveat is that it's opt-in. So to kind of tie this to a real-world example so I can kind of get a better grasp of how it would work in reality, my dad, for example, he receives Social Security insurance every single month of $1,300 per month. So with your proposal, he would have to choose between UBI and Social Security insurance. So my question then becomes, if he has to pick between these, and obviously he's going to opt for the $1,300 option because, basic math, it's more money.
It's higher.
Then, exactly, It's higher, so it makes more sense for him to do that. But effectively, he would not be getting an extra $1,000 because with my parents, they live paycheck to paycheck. They wait for that $1,300 check every single month. But if you increased them and supplemented what they already got, give them an extra $1,000, that would radically change their lives. But they'd have to opt in to UBI and they wouldn't get that additionally. Meanwhile, someone who makes $100,000 per year, who's firmly in the middle class, they'd get the extra $1,000. So even if I like that you're pitching this as a universal program, don't you think that opt-in caveat kind of undermines the universality of it?
Well, the $1,300 that your father receives, is that for both him and your mother? Are they both in the same household?
So I believe my father receives $1,300 and my mom gets $400 or something along those lines.
Yeah. So, and this is not an atypical situation, and it's why I ask, is that for your parents, your mom would also be entitled to the freedom dividend, and so she looks at her $400, and this is not unusual because a lot of women went years without developing work histories, often because they're raising kids, and then their Social Security benefits are much lower, and so your parents' net benefit would be $600 because your dad's like, hey, I'm getting $1,300, so pass in the freedom dividend, and your mom's like, ooh, freedom dividend,
right.
And then, the extra $600 would be really significant for household on a fixed income. And so it is true that certain people who are in existing programs might benefit a bit less, though, as you know, $600 on top of the $1,700 they're currently getting would be like a huge relief. I mean, that would be, like maybe a 33% increase. So it might not sound like, ooh, $600 a month, who cares? But that's actually like really significant if you're operating on a fixed income.
It would be substantial. But and so technically, if you're looking at couples, then they would technically get $2,000 per month. But that still begs the question: why would someone, for example, on Social Security disability have to choose? Why would they not get as much as someone who's making $100,000 per year? Do you kind of see? So there's just a disconnect, and I'm hoping that you can fill me in on that if I'm genuinely misunderstanding.
No. Well, your understanding of it is correct. So there are some problems that the freedom dividend is well designed to solve, and then some that it is less well designed to solve. Honestly, like it's very well designed to help empower millions of American workers and people in tough situations. It will make children and families stronger. It will improve our health, nutrition, mental health, relationships. It'll make workers tougher to exploit. Does it do as much for someone who's already receiving Social Security and other benefits? It does not do as much for those households. And to me, that's like a separate problem that we have to tackle and solve, which is that Social Security is supposed to go insolvent. And I think it's 18 years or something.
To be clear, just so people know, it actually rolls over. So, for example, it's scheduled to go insolvent in 2038, for example, but then next year it'll be scheduled to go insolvent in 2039, and then it just starts paying out 80% in the event it still isn't fully solvent. But I do agree with that there needs to be something. I think lifting the cap on Social Security is a really good solution. Is that something that you'd support?
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
There's like an unrelated crisis. It's related but unrelated. So we have tens of millions of aging Americans who do not have adequate retirement savings.
Right.
And we're about to be a society where you're seeing old people working until the day they die and dying on the street and living under bridges, all sorts of incredibly horrific things where, again, if we're the richest and most advanced society in the history of the world, that's unacceptable. And we should make big moves to address that. And the freedom dividend would help some of those situations because it's very common, like your parents, where you have two people who are receiving together jointly less than $2,000. But the freedom dividend is not actually designed to solve that problem as much as it's designed to solve other situations and problems. Do I agree that this retirement savings crisis and the home health care crisis and all of these need to have massive resources put to work? Yeah, 100%. And if you were to say, hey, the freedom dividend does not address that as effectively as it addresses other situations, I would agree with that as well.